You know what? If my eyes are really tired, it's because they are. I wasn't expecting to review right, but I came down yesterday from upstairs reading terrible reviews. I went downstairs and Mum's watching it, so we put it back to the beginning and I joined her. And today happens and I'm not feeling great. I've got my coffee, very, certainly a mug. And I figured in my life as a poor student I don't really get to go to the cinema as much as I'd like, and thank God for Netflix, because it means we get to watch new films on the TV and it's free and Mum pays for it. So boom, new release, up to date, doing a review, coffee, real authentic stuff. But here it is, Bright, a Netflix original film that was being advertised even in the cinemas, which is apparently a thing now. I honestly thought it was a TV series until I came downstairs and I saw reviews. Apparently it's a film, which, fine. It's one of those films where they show the trailers in the cinema and they feel it's necessary to sell the film by saying it's from the director of Suicide Squad. I don't know anyone that would buy a ticket based on that fact. If anything, that pushes people away, but whatever, Netflix, you seem to know what you're doing. So then Bright comes out, and it's an interesting concept, and it's a buddy cop film, not in any cheesy sense, but like David A. has done that before in End of Watch, I believe. I haven't seen it, and apparently that's good. And there is actually room here for a good film, even just conceptually. It's based in a world that, it's the standard fantasy world with orcs and fairies and elves, but it's an imagined future where, instead of it being like a medieval fantasy, it's modern society. So there's police cars being driven by humans, orcs, and it's an interesting concept. I like the idea of this film existing, just not really the execution. I mean, it's trying to go for a District 9 type race allegory film, but it's very ham-fisted even from the beginning. Lines like fairy lives don't matter, orcs are people too. I mean, it's definitely a line in the most technical sense, but bit ham-fisted, to say the least. So in this modern fantasy society, Will Smith is a cop and Joel Edgerton is an orc cop, and they're together. They have some past that is addressed, they have some tension, but they're going to be cops together. There's this thing called a wand. You know what a wand is, and wands are apparently very important. There's this elf girl that shows up and they go through the film together. It's very standard, which is a shame because there's a lot to be done with this concept. It's actually a very interesting idea, and it starts off cool with like orc and elfish related graffiti on the walls. There's definitely an imagination going into this, but it's being filtered through your standard narrative tropes and cliche after cliche, and it's diluting a really cool, if silly, concept down into your standard film. It doesn't really... You'd have thought this would be memorable, but for some reason, even now, it's all just a muddy mess. I mean, right from the start, it was rubbing me the wrong way with these fairy lives don't matter. It just hit me quite hard. I was like, well, we're only 5 minutes in, I hate this. And I'd seen the reviews. I was still up for giving it a chance. By the time the first act closer begins and this conflict starts coming in and it launches the rest of the film and they're on the run and doing stuff, I was sort of like, I could see myself coming to like this. I was sort of into it. There was some interesting imagery in the film as well. There was some stuff you're like, whoa, that looks cool. Like, it's an imaginative mind, or minds have gone into this. But it completely falls apart. In fairness to it, it does show that it's going to fall apart right from the start. That I never really had any illusion it was going to be good. Would I enjoy it after that the closing of the first act and stuff starts happening? Could have seen it happening, but it just feels like a series of fantastical, Will Smith and Joel Edgerton dressed up as an orc walk into a nightclub and they get shot at by orcs, people. It doesn't matter, guns are guns, whatever happens. I just felt like they kept going from place to place. They're trotting around fantasy LA, I suppose, and they're just getting shot at all the time. I just really didn't care. Like, the second act, which is obviously it's a majority of the film, it just all blends together. It's just nothing. It's just nothing. There's no chemistry between Will Smith and Joel Edgerton. There's nothing there. They try and tell jokes, and a couple of them are funny. I enjoyed it when he starts playing orc music and it's basically death metal, but it's kind of a big old nerd. I suppose you could chuckle at a few bits. I mean, Will Smith's trying, and Joel Edgerton is also a good actor, and apparently a good director. They're both trying, but there's just... Again, it's just this sense of a filter over everything, and everything that comes through it is just being turned to mush. It's just nonsense. Because it's a 2-hour-long film, once you realise halfway through you don't like it, you still have an hour to go. So it just drags on, and there's nothing going on. And in the third act, it doesn't really come into anything either. It's just a continuation of the second. It's still nothing. They didn't have enough content in the script for a film this long. That's a shame, because I do believe the people here were trying, and it's a genuinely original concept, as I keep saying. Like, just the thought of this failing is kind of upsetting. The film itself is not hatefully bad. It just falls into that standard nonsense of just being loud, innocuous, hilariously misguided, and a film with intentions and aspirations of grandeur, but it's just not there. It's just a poorly scripted, very bloated mess of a film. And you wouldn't, even if I didn't know going in that the director of Suicide Squad had made this, once you come out, you're like, I can definitely see why they're the same types of films. They're ugly as well. What's this deal with colour grading like this? Just making grey films. For a film called Bright, this is a dark film. It was horrible. I struggle to get mad. I'm genuinely upset just thinking about it. I'm kind of morose about the whole deal, because playing this fantasy modern society with these race allegories that are going to come with it, and they'll be handled however they are handled, it's not the biggest problem here. I like the idea of it, and they play it with a complete straight face. There are jokes in the film, but not about the concept. It's silly, but it's not like going to let on it's silly. And I like that. I think that could have been fine. And I'm just upset that it wasn't. It's not even painfully bad. It's just so dreadfully generic. And it's too long. And there's nothing I can really recommend about it. Will Smith plays Will Smith. Joel Edgerton's doing his thing, and he's fine. There are a couple laughs. It's so predictable that when a certain thing is revealed later in the film, it was so predictable that I thought they'd already done it. That's how obvious it was to me. And then they revealed it, and I'm like, what? And I was like, wait, have we not already done that? And it was just me thinking it so loudly in my head. I thought they'd already said. It's just misguided, to put it lightly. It does suck to say, but I am going to give Bright a 4 out of 10. Not good. So this review was a quick one. I still haven't finished my coffee, still working through that, so a little bit of a casual one, but I figured I'd get this review out because, it's something to do. We're doing all this Christmas stuff right now, and there was a free moment, so I reviewed a film. I just spilled coffee on the floor, fuck's sake. So to everyone who's watching, thank you very much. I hope you have a good Christmas, or whatever the hell you celebrate, and have a great time. And I'll be back with more reviews soon. Cheers.